Most men over 40 think their best days are behind them. But what if the truth is you're just getting started?
Don't move. Keep it locked. You already know. You're listening to the Forfeit Fatherhood Podcast. And we're having conversations with dope dads covering the 4 pillars of fatherhood. We call it the Fit Fatherhood Formula: faith, family, finance, and fitness. That's right. These dads are setting the pace in business and fatherhood. This show isn't only about the outside success. We're getting down to who you are. Gentlemen, it's time to get fit. And now, let's get into the show.
Today's episode is a powerful one. I'm joined by Ben Brown, the founder of Body Systems and the creator of Prime Fit OS, a system that's helped thousands of people lose over 15,000 pounds and, more importantly, reclaim their confidence, energy, and purpose. Ben has spent over 2 decades coaching everyone from professional athletes to Fortune 500 execs to busy dads just trying to find their edge again. He's also a husband, father of 3, and living proof that you can lead your family, career, and your health without burning out. In this conversation, we break down how to reclaim your strength In this conversation, we break down how to reclaim your strength and energy after 40, build unshakable confidence through health, create your personal operating system for life, and how to be a superhero for your family without losing yourself in the process. Let's get into it. All right. Welcome back to the Forfeit Fatherhood Podcast, a podcast for fathers by fathers, where we talk about the 4 pillars of fatherhood, which are faith, family, finance, and fitness. And we're going to lean into, I don't want to say it's the 4th pillar, right? Because I think just kind of depending on where you are in your life, any one of these pillars could take priority or take precedence. But I think one of them is kind of the throughway in all of them. And fitness is that pillar, right? I think if we want to be fathers and we want to have a high quality of fatherhood, and we want to have that quality of fatherhood for longer, we've got to focus on our fitness. Like, for me personally, I want to be a father for as long as humanly possible, right? I want to be a granddad, a great granddad, and if I can, a great great granddad. So the only way for me to do that is to take care of my health and my fitness. And my guest today is a man that is absolutely helping guys crush it in their health and their fitness. My guest is Ben Brown. Ben, how you doing today?
I'm great, brother. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we kind of talked a little pre-podcast. As both as coaches, we kind of understand how important fitness is. And it seems to be the one thing that is the easiest to let go of once we start trying to grab a hold of these other things, right? Like, we become a father and immediately our finances, if they weren't already at the top of it, we've got to figure out how to pay for all these things. We are leaning into our family because now we're a new father, and that's important. Both of those things are important. And it seems like fitness is the thing to go, right? Like, we just don't make time to take care of our health. We start eating whatever is out there, whatever is the easiest to get to. We don't work out the same way. We stop kind of caring how we look, and we ignore how we feel. And then fitness kind of goes away. So kind of let us know a little bit about yourself, and then kind of talk a little bit about what the work that you do with fathers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just with respect to kind of what you were talking about, a lot about letting fitness go by the wayside. I mean, one of the things I observed through my youth was that very thing happening with my father. And, when I was younger, we would go to the gym together. We would do, like, I grew up in Minnesota. We would do some mountain bike races together. He kind of got into road bike racing a little bit, but at the end of the day, he was pretty overweight, not super healthy. And so I kind of witnessed it firsthand in terms of the implications of him not taking care of his health on his attitude, on his, demeanor, on our relationship, on his relationship with my sisters and the family. And at the end of the day, I think it just intrinsically was really something that I didn't want for myself. Especially, I mean, we're pretty close to the same age, growing up in the 80s, right? It's like we were indoctrinated with Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jean-Claude Van Damme and, like, all these dudes, like, they were my idols, and so who didn't, what guy didn't want to be jacked and treaded and, ripped and in great shape? And it sort of was the pinnacle of the 70s and 80s, I think, were the pinnacle of manlyhood and everything that, like, what was represented as being a fit, healthy man, father, husband, all of that kind of stuff. And so, anyways, all of that to say, I feel like that's just kind of been part of my ethos
Mhm.
um, growing up. Because, like I said, I grew up in Minnesota. I mean, I played sports growing up, but it kind of was plagued by a couple different things. I tore my ACL in high school, my junior year, for like first football scrimmage of the year, and so I had to miss the whole season, um, and kind of got really enamored with the physical therapy process because I was already
Mhm.
into fitness. I'd been working out. I started working out when I was 15, 16 years old with weights. So, was kind of already pretty interested in the gym. And then throughout my high school and college career, I struggled a lot with just some like gastrointestinal issues, gut issues, IBS. I'd throw up a lot after meals, like really had a lot of food sensitivities, and conventional medicine really couldn't figure out what was going on. And I was on all the different antacid medications and got like the endoscopy, which is the camera down the throat to look at your stomach lining. And lo and behold, nothing was quote unquote wrong, right? There was no diagnosis other than you should still take all these medications. And so I had to figure out the answers for myself. And that took me down the rabbit hole of nutrition. And, so I was exploring the physical therapy and strength and conditioning route through academia. Like, I played rugby for University of Arizona. I went up to grad school and studied exercise and wellness at Arizona State, started a personal training business. And then all the while I was studying clinical nutrition, ended up getting a second master's degree in clinical nutrition, just as really as I continued to understand more and more about how I could help myself. And then ultimately realized, like, I was developing all of these really powerful skills and tools to be able to help other people with all of their maladies, their nutrition, their gut health, their fatigue, their energy levels, their joint issues, to say nothing of just being able to like drop body fat and build lean muscle tissue. And so fast forward, now 15, 20 years later, I mean, that's essentially what we do with men, and what I typically say some badass women is really just help them figure out and develop the skills and the tools to take full ownership over their health and well-being.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome, man. Like a lot of people have to like to take what you had to learn about making yourself better, right? And trying to figure that stuff out, and then going, hey, you know what? This can help other people, right? Is a huge step, right? Because you could have just figured out how to make your life better and just moved on from there, right? But going above and beyond and going, hey, I can help other people because I'm sure there's other people that had the same or similar situation as you with no real diagnosis. Just hey, you got to live like this. This is what it is, without the courage or the understanding or knowledge that you received about all of it, that struggle. And even people who don't have necessarily the same diagnosis, but a lot of us struggle with some of those similar issues, right? With some of the things that come from how we eat. And so
Yeah.
you kind of taking that and sharing it is huge. I think it's super important.
Yeah. I mean, listen, honestly, it really was a product of like, I didn't really want to do anything else. It's just like
Mhm.
I was good at fitness. Like,
Yeah.
it's what I like to do. And I honestly, I probably goofed around way too much in college to qualify to do anything else. So the
Okay.
next logical step, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of guys that know how it is. And it's just kind of like, we go the route that makes the most sense or is sort of the lowest friction provided. So it's like, listen, I got to keep getting better. I got to keep up leveling my skills. And so it was, well, I'll go to graduate school. And then I really got immersed into strength and conditioning, found some amazing mentors. And so it's really just been I mean, I feel very fortunate um, to be able to do what I do and man, as challenging as it is, being an entrepreneur, being on your own and raising a family and, having a wife that is for the most part staying at home and, doing the incredibly important wife things and mom things. Like, it's challenging. It's challenging. And that, brings up like, how do you prioritize your health and fitness amongst all of those, right? All of those challenges that we experience as dads.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's talk about that, right? Because there are guys that read that line of thinking that you just went through right there that resonates, right? Is we have a business or even if if we just work for someone, right? We have a
Yeah,
9 to 5. But we do have all these other responsibilities. We have all these other things and we're trying to figure out like we understand that fitness is important, but if we start listing things, right? The roof is important, my wife is important, my kids are important. Fitness isn't like trumping any one of those things for us right now. Like what how do you find time or how do you prioritize fitness? Like what is it that a guy with all of those same things you just mentioned, what is it that he should be doing or what's the first step, I guess, to kind of get back into that?
it's a great question. And I think the first step is acknowledging it's not one or the other. You know,
Mm,
it's not it's understanding that if you prioritize your health and fitness, like if you prioritize eating healthier and making time to exercise every day, you're not taking away from the other things in life that matter to you. You're adding to those. You're adding energy, you're adding confidence, you're adding the example to your kids, right? You're adding just your magnetic presence, right? The energetic field that you develop around you, uh, and that's where you have more to give, right? As cliche as it is, it's true. And any guy listening that has prioritized their health and fitness and makes it part of their day to day understands viscerally that relationship because, you know, it's not that we don't typically have the time. We're just not prioritizing it. And one of the things I do with my clients is like we will do a time audit, Rod,
mm,
and I'll have them straight up pull out their phone and show me their screen time. It's like, hey man, you've
yeah,
got 2 hours a day on Instagram. Now you tell me that that's more important than making time for your fitness. And honestly, this is not like a pointing the finger judgment. It's we all do this shit, but it's
right.
simply acknowledging that we're simply just not prioritizing our time appropriately. And one of the things I always say is like, show me your calendar and I'll show you your priorities.
Hmm.
And so if we can acknowledge, right, that there actually is time in the day where we're probably wasting time doing this, that, and the other, watching TV, scrolling social media. I am just as guilty of everyone else. Going out to eat, that's taking you time. It's costing you money that you could be, you know, cooking healthier, cheaper food at home, blah, blah, blah. Right. But the point is, first and foremost, it's just making that mindset shift of let's agree that it's not really a time issue, it's a prioritization issue. Right. And if we can simply, and then the second step, right. And if we can just say, okay, well, it's not unreasonable for me to spend 30 minutes a day on my fitness and or on my nutrition.
Hmm.
Right. So, right. We can all agree to that. I'm sure
Right.
everyone
Yeah,
listening, yeah, that's,
absolutely.
that's pretty reasonable. Right. And then beyond that is then saying, okay, well, if that's reasonable, then the next logical step is like, how do I strategically structure that in? And, how do we start to drive some momentum from there? Because I think one of the things that so many of us, especially if like we've been an athlete growing up,
Hmm.
oftentimes we have kind of this all or nothing type of mentality around our health and fitness, right? It's like, I'm going back to like my high school workouts. I'm going to hit 2 a days. I'm going to eat super clean. I'm going to do 75 hard. I'm cutting out the booze, no
Yeah.
sugar, no carbs, right? And I'm going to crush it for the next 30 days leading up to my Cabo trip. Okay, that's all good and well. And then you crash and burn either somewhere on the way, or you hit the trip, blow up by 10 pounds from eating and drinking and come back and you're like, yeah, I'll start again after the new year or whatever. And so the differentiation is acknowledging that it doesn't have to be this crush yourself in the gym, boot camp style, barf after every workout, uber restrictive dieting mentality, Rod, right? It's simply like, hey, where are some areas where I could simply start to make better decisions? Can I cut back on the alcohol? Can I start to eat more protein? Can I add some more vegetables? Can I stop snacking between meals? Can I stop picking off the kid's plate? Can we stop eating out so frequently and start making healthier, lower calorie meals at home? yada, yada, yada. Right. Does that make
Hmm.
sense?
No, 100%, 100%. I think there's a lot to kind of take from what you just said. One, it's a mindset, right? And that all or nothing mindset. It's almost like the idea of perfection, right? Like perfection a lot of times prevents progress because if we're chasing being perfect, if we know we're not going to be perfect in this instance, we just won't do it. Like we just won't touch it, right? If I can't get 2 hours of a workout in today, then I'm not going to work out. If I
Right.
can't get 2 days in, I'm not going to work out. If I can't eat completely healthy, well, then I'll wait till Monday, right? And so that happens to a lot of us, and something that I think is important is to kind of shift from, like you said, from all or nothing to maybe always something, right? I do the same
Yeah, I
thing
like
with guys
that.
I work with is the time audit, right? And we'll look at it and the same thing is screen time, it's Instagram, it's YouTube, it's Netflix or whatever. And the argument I get is, well, it's not 2 hours straight, right? Like I don't have 2 hours straight. I'm not watching 2 hours straight. But I'm like, okay, well, let's look at it. Well, if we look at your calendar, yeah, you don't have 2 hour blocks, but you have these 15-minute blocks that you're spending doing Instagram scrolling, or you're watching half a show on Netflix or whatever. That
Yep.
very same 10 or 15 minutes could be a walk.
Yep.
It could be an EMOM, right? Every minute on the minute, you knock out,
Yep.
whatever exercises. That's a 10-minute workout. That's it's gonna move the needle in the right direction versus, the doom scrolling that you're probably gonna do. That's gonna get you in a negative mindset because you're comparing yourself to some other person in their life and their
Yep.
highlight reel on Instagram.
Yep.
And that's a hard one for guys to wrap their heads around because it seems harmless, right? It seems harmless in the moment, in these small kind of instances. But when you look at it, like you said, when you look at screen time for the day and it's 2.5 hours, you're like, man, you do have time, right? Like, our biggest argument is that we don't have time. But the reality is time is kind of all we have. It's
Hmm.
it's the one commodity or the one thing that we all have. Like we all don't have the same amount of money. We don't all have the same amount of resources. We all have the same amount of time. It's a matter of how you prioritize and use that time.
Yeah. No, I couldn't. You said it so well. And I'm not going to, pretend for a second that it's not challenging when you have kids and you have a career. Like
Mhm.
it is. It really is challenging. My wife and I, we joke a lot because we have a couple friends who don't. How many kids do you have, Rod?
I have two girls.
Yeah. So we have a couple friends who they don't have any kids. They've been married for years, and I can't imagine what life feels like because every time you talk to them, you're like, "How you doing? Like, what's going on?" Like, "Oh my God, I'm so busy." Yada yada yada. I'm like, bro, you do not know what quote unquote busy feels like until you have kids, you have your career, you have the extracurriculars, you have the sports, you have, eh, to say nothing of all the finances involved. We've got one kid in volleyball, we've got another kid in dance and theater. And yeah, it's wild, man.
I know, I
Actually,
know.
my oldest, she's about to get her driver's license. And so now we're looking at like car insurance. It is insane. It's insane. So, anyways, but the point is, it's like, I'm not saying for a second that it's not challenging. It is.
Mhm.
And that's fine. It's supposed to be challenging, but it's an opportunity for us to really dial in like what's important. And one of the things that I think is so magical, Rod, that I know you'll agree with me with is really what happens when guys and women and mothers and fathers find that level of intrinsic motivation and momentum around their health and fitness, around the daily walk, around
Mhm.
starting to establish some more structure around their meals, around how good they feel, around how they start to sleep better, their joints stop hurting so much. They start to like what they look in and how they see themselves in the mirror. They can see that future identity for themselves. They start to see their kids start to mimic those behaviors, right? And it's this feed forward cycle. And so I think that for so many people, it's really just starting to roll that, get that ball rolling and starting to get that initial inertia
Mhm.
so that we can start to break through some of those existing behaviors and patterns that aren't serving us. and start to literally roll into some of the behaviors and skills and tools that are going to, create our 2.0, 3.0, 5.0, 10.0 version.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of sticking with that. I kind of got two questions for you. So a lot of the guys listening are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and they've achieved some level of success, but at this point now they kind of feel drained, right, with all of the things that are going on. So my question is one, what's the first step to help them kind of get that spark back? And then two, you mentioned patterns. Like, what are some of the patterns that you see that kind of lead them to losing that edge? And I guess what is it that gets it back, right? So I guess that what helps them get it back, and what's the first step to getting to that point, I guess.
So, yeah. So, just I'll answer the first one. So, the first step in helping them get their spark back, is that right?
Yeah, uh-huh, uh-huh.
So I think it's acknowledging what you want, right? And why it's important to you. So what specifically is it that you want? Like I think as we get older, there's a lot less focus necessarily on like six pack abs, right? Like what guy doesn't want to look better with their shirt off? Like we want to look leaner, we want to have muscle definition, we want to have lean muscle mass, we want to
Mhm.
feel strong. I think that's certainly a goal for every guy, but it's not like the most important goal.
Right.
Right. And I think for a lot of guys, it's giving themselves permission to be okay with that not being the number one, but rooting a little bit deeper into like, well, why is this shit even important to you? Like, are you ready, willing, and able to make the trade offs that are going to be required for you to experience the level of success that you say that you want? And
Mhm.
candidly, it's just like laying it on the table of helping them acknowledge that it is in fact something that's important because you said that you want to be able to go for bike rides with your daughters. You said that you want to be able to walk your daughter down the aisle. But right now, you're in a position where if you keep going down the same path, you're not going to make it to your daughter's wedding based on the blood work that you said that you just got, your doctor's recommendations, the way that you look and feel. Like, so let's just put our cards on the table here, bro. And, that's of course further down the spectrum. But then there's a lot of guys that are like in the early stages of that kind of stuff. Like, how do you want to look? How do you want to feel? What do you want your life to look like? Right? How do you see yourself showing up in the world? What level of um, how do you want to give, right, to your
Mhm.
community, to your family, to the things that are you say are important to you? So I think it's just highlighting those things first and foremost, and
Mhm.
then kind of building the roadmap, and that tends to spark enough motivation and sort of real world acknowledgement of like, okay, this is something that's really important to me. And if we can agree that it's not something that's going to happen overnight, we're not going to do this in 30 days. We're not even going to do this in 6 months or a year, but this is going to be an ongoing process. And that feels a little less aggressive and a little
Mhm.
more realistic for me to acknowledge. Now, don't get me wrong. We can get a lot done in 6 months, a year, but ultimately it's who do I need to become in this process, right? How do I develop the skills and tools and behaviors to be the type of person that's going to be lean, healthy, and strong for my daughter for when I walk her down the aisle in 15 years, or 20 years? Like, that's the type of dude that I need to start to figure out what those behaviors look like and start to mimic those behaviors right now. And that seems to be a pretty good um, sort of logical association
Mhm.
and next step for guys to want to be able to commit to the process.
Okay. Okay. All right. Now let's say I've kind of reasoned that, I put the cards on the table. I'm ready to go. I have my why, right, which is what's kind of what you're talking about. Like, why are we doing it? But I'm 40, right? What, as they used to say, we're over the hill, right? I'm on my way down. You got hormones and recovery and all these things are different now that I'm over 40, or at least I think they are. This is what they've told me, right? And like,
Yeah, right.
let's just say I don't know for sure if they are or aren't, but I feel different. It's not like my 20s where I used to hit the gym and I go hard for a couple weeks and lose, I can lose the weight easy. right? Or I had the energy to bounce back for the workout tomorrow. Um, One, I guess, are there differences once you hit 40? What are some of the changes in maybe hormones, sleep, recovery, those kind of things? And is there something that we can do to help overcome that?
Yeah. So it's without question that things change as we get older. And what we do in our 40s probably shouldn't look like what we did in our 20s. Our joints aren't the same. Our recovery isn't the same. We've been through a lot of stress. We are going through a lot of stress. We have decline in hormones. Sometimes we have a decline in lean muscle tissue. Um, and so, fundamentally and metabolically, there are absolutely unequivocally some changes, but it doesn't mean that you're over the hill. And it definitely doesn't mean that you should accept feeling like shit in your 40s, 50s, and 60s. What we need to do is acknowledge that we need to be that much more diligent about our nutrition and our training and eating smarter, training smarter, recovering harder, and ultimately optimizing for our hormonal function at this age. And so that looks like, certainly being a lot more diligent about our nutrition and planning and preparing, because we can't get away with what we got away with in our 20s. From a training standpoint, generally it means, like when I say training smarter, it's generally really being conservative about the amount of volume that we're training with, the types of exercises that we're training. I tend to favor a lot more machine-based training. I'm but but really like the big exercises that can be really challenging, like barbell back squats, deadlifts, barbell bench press, overhead pressing. Typically those exercises are out and just not worth the risk,
Mhm.
if you will. And so that's what I mean when I say train smarter. We want to be able to, um, what I typically say is we want to be able to live to train another day,
Mhm.
and not just try and kill ourselves like we used to do. And so it's much more strategic in the amount, the volume of training, the types of exercises that we're doing, so that our joints can actually recover and we can keep coming back and creating the stimulus day over day. And then from a hormonal standpoint, uh, Rod, from a hormonal standpoint, it's absolutely, at least with the guys and gals that we work with, it's really having a kind of a medical support team of being able to actually look at hormone optimization and saying, listen, dude, just because your testosterone is quote unquote normal, at 45 years old, doesn't mean it's optimal, because you can feel like shit with a normal testosterone. And by the way, like normal testosterone ranges are from like 250 to 900 or 1,000, right? Which is this ridiculous range for total testosterone. And listen, it's to say nothing of free testosterone, it's to say nothing of sex hormone binding globulin. And there's a lot of guys that we work with, have worked with, and that we consult with who are in the quote unquote normal range, and they feel like crap. Like they
Mhm.
feel like crap, whether, it's right in the middle of the range, whether it's in the high normal range, or whether it's in the very, very low end of the range, despite the doctor saying you're fine, you know, it's not fine because you have symptoms of low testosterone. And so that's going to lend itself to obviously low libido, low muscle tissue, um, poor recovery, harder to actually put on muscle mass and recover from your exercises, lethargy, poor cognitive function, low energy. The list goes, potentially poor sleep, low drive. So sometimes having that addressed, and I'll always, the first thing we should do is optimize for our nutrition and our training, right? Manage our stressors, which is easier said than done, making sure we're sleeping enough. And then it's like, hey, are there things that we need to do from an actual hormone optimization standpoint? Do we need to consider testosterone optimization? If so, then we usually will align them with a provider that can help support them through this process in a really progressive way. But those are the considerations that go far above and beyond kind of just like, here's the stuff I used to do when I was younger.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It was definitely I definitely wasn't thinking about any of that stuff when I was in my 20s, right? When I was still playing college football or even right after, it was like I didn't even warm up. It was we get to the gym, we just get into it, right? Like just make it happen. I'm realizing now that if I don't warm up, like I'm going to be paying for it later. So I definitely take the time to warm up. And that's just on a small scale, right? That's just like a small thing. What you're talking about goes way deeper than that. Um, so obviously you're a coach with body systems, but I saw that Prime Fit OS. What is Prime Fit OS? Because it sounds like you had some really detailed answer just now, and I'm assuming that some of that comes from the operating system that you've created.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what it is. It's really the systematic process that we take our clients through to help them get, great results, and it's really
Hmm.
kind of priming the system. And so there's kind of three kind of unique phases, if you will, or three strategic phases that we take clients through to
Hmm.
build their own personal operating system around their health and fitness. Ultimately, it's like we have to have strategy and structure and systems in place. So that's what I mean by saying operating system. It's the same thing we would look at in business. Is like, what are our KPIs? How are we objectively measuring progress? and and so, first and foremost, what we do is we kind of prime the system, and we really do an audit, like we were talking about with time. We're not just auditing for time. We're creating awareness around calorie intake, around weight, around circumference measurements, around sleep quality and quantity, around hydration levels, around maybe it's the blood work, and what's going on with the different hormone levels, with lipids, with blood sugar, with inflammation. And so objectively, first and foremost, it's like we're doing an assessment. Where's our baseline? Where are we starting from? And then similarly, it's like subjectively, where are we starting from? Hunger, energy, cravings, mood, libido, digestion, cognitive function, right? What's going on and how are these things correlated? Then we give you the tools through this priming process to really start to take ownership around these variables. Tracking our steps, tracking your calorie intake, starting a strategic strength training program, and us actually taking a look at like your movement patterns and where do we have opportunities for improvement? How can we drive injury prevention and/or, perhaps regeneration or rehabilitation process? And so this is building the foundation, right? It's
Hmm.
giving you all of those fundamental skills to truly take ownership and responsibility over our decisions so that you have autonomy, Rod, because no guy wants to be told what to do, whether you think you do or not. I think it's so funny in the nutrition space, like so often we want to just absolve ourselves of responsibility and just say, just tell me what to do, right? Just tell me what to
Hmm.
eat. Just give me the meal plan. Just here's the check mark: green foods, eat these; X foods, red check mark foods, don't eat these. And that's not the way we work. Like from a behavioral psychology standpoint, like most humans do not respond well when they're told what to do. And so instead, we need to have autonomy over this process. And I want you equipped with the ability to make decisions that are right for you. So the priming process is giving you the ability to do that. That's where we transition into, once you have that, we usually see some pretty solid movement, usually in terms of scale weight or body composition changes or energy or sleep quality or confidence or cognitive function, or and usually all of the above. And that's kind of blends into the transform phase, which we really start to root into these things. Now we can create some more specific parameters around your calorie intake, around your macronutrient intake, if necessary, around some more strategic, specific type of training for, whatever your goals are, whether it's fat loss, whether it's muscle building, whether it's performance. Maybe you're training for, some sort of endurance race or a big, huge hike, we got a bunch of guys that do Grand Canyon, like rim to rim, stuff like that. So then we'll kind of focus a little bit more on those specific things through our transform phase. And the other thing to consider is the cyclical nature of our lives, Rod, in the terms of, um, there's just always these undulations, right? And we call this the nutrition seasons, but it's basically like, listen, right now we're in fall, right now is usually a pretty good time to drive some fat loss. Kids are back in school. We sort of have this runway leading up to Thanksgiving and then the holidays. And it's a beautiful time to start to tighten the reins. A lot of people have kind of let it go over the summer, right? So we can start to dial things back in and then drive some momentum, especially before the new year, which you and I both know obviously is always a great time to kind of put the pedal to the metal as well. But then, we hit things like spring break, summer break. And so it's always these undulations. And we want you to be in a position like we were talking about with the all or nothing thinking. You have to have the mindset of understanding when it's appropriate to double down and when you need to kind of lay your cards down or just back off a little bit and be okay with just some level of stagnation, but also having the tools and responsibility to live in that gray. And that's really what we talk about in our sustain phase is like, how do we manage these seasons? When are we doubling down and driving for performance or for fat loss? Or are we taking a prolonged kind of muscle building phase? And what's that's going to look like with all of the responsibilities, the travel, the things that are coming up? Or is that even reasonable right now? And so it's kind of being able to zoom out and look at the big picture because we can crush it for the first 6 months or a year. But ultimately is like I said, when we talked, when you asked me about sort of the long term is we have to build the kind of realistic picture of what this long-term process is going to look like. Otherwise, guys are just getting stuck in these kind of yo-yo feedback loops, and it's not serving us well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think most of us can agree that there's this yo-yo idea where everybody's gained or lost 20 pounds, a bunch of times, right? You locked in, you worked hard, you lost 20 pounds, and then whatever you were losing weight for came, and then you lost the drive.
Yeah.
But what I like about what you just talked about is the long-term look at it, right? It's like, is it sustainable to go hard like that all the time? Two, the reality is there are going to be like you're doing all of this to live a certain quality of life, right? Like you're not a professional bodybuilder, you're not a professional athlete. And so you're not always driving for performance, right? And even professional bodybuilders, they have their off season where they just kind of eat whatever they want to eat, right? They have downtime. But the reality is, as a normal person, like you have to still be able to enjoy life. Like you still want to be able to go to a birthday party and have a slice of cake, or you want to go out with your wife and have a glass of wine or two, or you want to watch the game and have a beer and eat some barbecue. Like you still need to be able to enjoy life. We're working on our body and our health and our fitness to have a better quality of life, not to have a restricted quality of life. And so I like the fact that you have that's kind of like pull out and let's see the big picture. Like, yes, we are working towards something, but the reality is there are going to be these kind of peaks and valleys and these times where maybe we're not driving so hard towards that thing, and it's real and it's okay, right? Because I think again we get back into the all or nothing, right? Where I'm not trying to lose weight right now, or I'm not trying to hit a certain goal right now because I just finished my 5K or my marathon, and so I just fall all the way off. Right. And then I got to start all over. And in the new year, though, because we're at a very interesting time right now. This kind of right around Halloween, guys or people in general are making a decision whether I'm going to keep pushing until Thanksgiving or I'm just throwing up my hands and it's the new year. Right. I'm just going to eat whatever until the new year and then start all over.
So it's wild, man. And you said that very well. And I think that's definitely the most important component is acknowledging what you want your life to actually look like. Because I'll tell you what, man, 6-pack abs are great, but generally they're just not worth the trade-offs that are going to happen. The beautiful thing is you get to make that decision for yourself. Is like, where is the juice worth the squeeze? And I want you to, I want to be able to give you the tools to get as lean as you want to get. And if at any point, we get in a position where you're just like, I'm miserable, like I'm restricting myself, I'm in a bad mood around my family, I'm not able to eat the meals that I want to eat, we can't go out as a family, I feel like I'm reticent to travel, which by the way, are a lot of the trade-offs that are required to get to the level of leanness that a lot of guys think that they want or need to be at. And it's a beautiful thing. as much as I would love to like post your pictures online of you being just shredded, from big guy to shredded, it's like, dude, I would so much rather you give yourself permission to not feel like you have to live up to these unrealistic expectations
Mm-hmm.
and be okay being the dude who's like, you know what? I'm actually not making myself feel like shit for once for the decisions that I'm making. At the same time, I'm also not eating like an asshole every
Right.
single weekend. And I'm okay now being the dude that just has one or two beers. I enjoy some wings and maybe a couple slices of pizza here and there, but I'm not the dude that has to do it all,
Yeah.
all clean or just blow it all to hell. That's
Yeah.
a beautiful world to live in.
Yeah, yeah. A guy I used to coach with used to say this all the time. Where we watch film on Saturdays, and he used to always say, it's never as good as it looks, and never as bad as it looks. The truth is somewhere in the middle, and I think that kind of aligns with what you're just saying. Is like, hey, getting a six pack and keeping a six pack is hard. I don't. I like. I commend
Yeah.
everybody that can do it, that especially if you're doing it naturally, like it's hard work, right? There's a lot of sacrifices. There's a lot of eating stuff that you're tired of eating. The workouts suck, right? Like they're hard. They're harder when your body fat percentage is lower. Like it's hard. On the flip side of that, it's also hard to eat like crap all the time. Your
Mm,
body hurts, you're inflamed, your back hurts, your knees hurt, you're tired, you're lethargic. The truth is like, let's get somewhere in the middle where we're not comfortable, right? Because comfort is, that can be a very
mhm.
slippery slope where we're still like, where we're thriving. I'll say that, where we're not like struggling and we're not like doing too much. We're in the middle where we're thriving and we're happy and we're healthy and we can do all the things that we said we wanted to do. Like we mentioned earlier, we could play with the kids, we can go ride bikes, we can work out with and feel good about it. We can
Yep.
walk up the stairs without having to breathe heavy. We can go to the pool on the weekend and take our shirt off and not feel bad.
Yep.
Um, let's find that middle ground. I think we let ourselves go for so long that we feel like we have to swing the pendulum all the way back in order for us to feel good about it. But along the way, you actually find like, okay, I'm just gonna hit the six pack because that was my goal. But then once I
Right.
get there, like, all right, let's find something that's livable, right? Because I've had a six pack numerous times in my life. I try to stay somewhere near it just in case I
Yep.
want to have the drive to go do it for like well, we're going to the beach and we're gonna take pictures this weekend, so I would make sure I'm locked in.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm not on that all the time. Like I can't be. I got kids and they have candy and they have leftovers that they don't want to
Yeah.
eat. And sometimes I gotta, like dad's gotta get some dad tax on. If I gotta open up the package for you, I need a little dad tax. Like
Dad
and so
tax.
I can't keep a six pack eating dad tax. It's not gonna work.
Touche, man. I love that. And no, I agree with you. I mean, you got to be close enough to shredded to be dangerous. I mean, that's definitely
Yeah.
my motto. If I'm 6 weeks out, 4 weeks out, I'm in a damn good position right
Right.
there. And I hold myself to very high standards. And you know what? I would certainly encourage every guy to do that. But the cool
Yes.
part is like, as you start to go down this road, you have the ability to really start to raise the floor and raise your standards and raise your non-negotiables. And that's where it's wonderful because it doesn't become just like get the six pack, take the pictures and get out of there,
Hmm.
and like, good, I'm glad I hit that bucket list. I'm never going to do that again. That's not what it's about. It's
Right.
about, like I keep saying, is what skills, tools, and behaviors am I building through this process to the degree that I'm actually someone who really enjoys exercising. Like I really enjoy going for walks every day. I really enjoy eating healthy foods because it makes me feel good. I can think clearly. I can have logical conversations with people like you. I can lead my clients and my family by example to the degree that I always want to challenge myself to continue to excel and do better. But yeah, it just looks differently now than it did back when I was getting six pack for the first time.
Yeah.
And that's what I would encourage guys to think about is how do you become the type of person that just genuinely enjoys doing the things that lean people do, lean, healthy, strong people do. Because when you do that, then it no longer is about trying to be as lean as you can. It's just about, I do what I enjoy because it makes me feel good. And
Yeah.
and I'm also leading by example for my family, and by the way, they're now mimicking my behaviors, and this is how we improve. Honestly, honestly, this is how we improve the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. You're skilled enough to be dangerous, but wise enough not to be, right? Like you
Mhm.
just you can get there in a few weeks time, but you know that you don't need to be there, and you don't need to be dangerous in the other way, right? Where we're just completely unhealthy. You mentioned non-negotiables, and so I want to ask you, what's one of your non-negotiables, like one of your habits that you practice that keeps you high energy, or that kind of keeps your leadership sharp as a dad and as a coach.
I mean, I have a few, but I think one is definitely like my bedtime. I'm
Mm,
pretty big stickler about getting to bed at, you know, 9 p.m. is kind of my, like, if I had it my way, it would probably be like 8:30, but again, I got kids. Like last night, I was trying to get to bed at like 8:39, and everyone was in the bedroom, and we were goofing around and stuff as much as I wanted to. You kind of got to appreciate those times. But
yeah.
it's definitely my bedtime because I get up early. I try and get a lot done before the rest of the world's awake.
Hmm.
I think that's just such a pivotal time. Um, One of my non-negotiables is definitely like really prioritizing real food as far as my nutrition is like, meat, vegetables, rice, potato, like real foods. We call them single ingredient foods as much as possible, trying not to rely too much on obviously junk food, bars and shakes, but there's a place for that stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and I think, just daily movement of like, hey, if I can get in um, 8 to 10,000 steps, then that's a pretty big non-negotiable for me as well.
I like that. So it's because you mentioned it, I'm curious. I'm a big routine, like my nighttime routine is trash. My morning routine is much better. And I say my nighttime routine is trash is because my kids and my wife are not on the same routine as me.
Yes.
And so they don't, like, my daughter, my last night I took my daughter to softball practice, and she didn't finish practice until 9:30. So we
Oh
got home
God.
at like
Yeah.
10, which means, I had just got home. It was the first time I got to spend some time with my wife. So I didn't go to sleep until midnight.
Yeah.
And so, like, my nighttime routine is just all over the place. My morning routine is pretty solid. But I'm curious to know what yours looks like. And here's something I'll tell guys before you get into it. I think the key to a solid morning routine, and me notwithstanding, the key to a solid morning routine is a really solid evening routine. So I'm curious to hear what yours are.
Yeah, I mean, my morning is I'll usually wake up at like 4:35, somewhere in there, depending on what time I get to sleep the night before, and then it's get up, glass of water, instant coffee. I got a couple different like instant coffees that I rotate through, and depending on the time of the year, like during the summer, it might be and it's lighter earlier. I might just grab the dog and go for a walk. Um, Otherwise, it like this morning was some journal, like just like, 3 things I'm grateful for. And like,
Mhm.
um, I have a journal that kind of prompts like a couple questions, but generally it's just some projecting out like what I want for the future, what I'm grateful for right now. It's just putting down my most important things. Like I've got some note cards, like the most important things I'm going to do today that I need to focus on. Um, it's just getting clear on those. I'll do maybe probably 3 or 4 days out of the week. I'll do like 10 or 15 minutes of a guided meditation. I use Headspace.
Okay.
And then, yeah, and then it's either dig into work or usually it's like then if it's kind of 5:36 by then the kids are starting to get up and from 6 to 7:15 it's like lunches, prep lunches.
Hmm.
I try and cook the kids breakfast every day and my wife breakfast every day. That's like my dedicated family time because after that I'm nose down in work
Yeah.
as much as possible and I'll usually eat, right around then as well. Um, So I know you asked about I think you alluded to nutrition, so I wasn't sure if you want more
Hmm.
details there.
No, no, yeah, yeah. I just was kind of wondering what it's very similar to mine, right? We have a, we have a very similar morning routine, and I think you mentioned something that's really important because guys trying to fit fitness in is I think sometimes a stumbling block, right? Is I don't know that we all have the schedule to fit fitness in. We should. I mean, somewhere in our day it has to fit in, but I think you can create the time that you don't have by getting up earlier, right? Like you mentioned, getting up at 4:30. I get up around the same time, and it's not because I'm an early bird. I am like I naturally wake up early, and that so it works for me. But that's the only time of the day where nobody else is up, right? My kids aren't up
Yeah.
asking me for anything. My wife isn't. She doesn't have her to-do list
Yep.
out in front of me. I don't have any work appointments or meetings. No one's put anything on my calendar. If I get up early, it gives me the time to dedicate towards myself first, right? And it's one of those things that I have to tell myself. It's like when I'm on the plane, I have to put my mask on first before I can do anything for anyone else. And
Yep.
so getting up in the morning early or earlier than everyone else gives me that opportunity to get my mask on, make sure my oxygen is flowing right before I can save anybody else.
Yeah, dude. I mean, listen, I think here's what I think. I think having a routine is important. I
Hmm.
don't think necessarily that you have to like meditate and journal and cold plunge and do all of these things. Like, it's important for me, because I know myself, I get really anxious if I don't have clarity around the things that I need to focus on for the day. I get really easily, I don't know if I'm ADD or what, but I get really easily distracted. And as a
Hmm.
business owner, there's a never ending list of things that I quote unquote should be doing. And I found myself going down that rabbit hole way too many times, to the degree that if I know unequivocally, if I just get these few things, one or two or three things done today that I know I have time to do and have made time to do, it's going to be a successful day. And it helps me lock that in through that kind of journaling and kind of meditation practice of like absolving myself of any of the other shit and any of the other things that I feel stress about, and just putting things into perspective. But with that said, if I couldn't justify that time and I didn't have time, like Wednesdays are a day where I have a little bit more time through the day. I don't talk to clients. I do podcast interviews. I've got a videographer coming over later. We're going to film some video, but I can train later in the day. If I didn't have the time, I would absolutely train early. I would get up, drink my water, probably grab some, essential amino acids, and I would train first thing in the morning to have it
Hmm.
done for the day. And I see that as a really valuable tool for a lot of guys to justify. Listen, do you wake up 30 to 45 minutes earlier? You're just, I mean, let's be honest, you're laying in bed scrolling anyway. So you're sitting on the toilet scrolling for 30 minutes,
Yeah.
right? Like, dude, yeah, just get it done and start to build that momentum.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's again, we go back to mindset, right? It's just a shift in mindset or thought process of like reality is you have the time, right? It's there, it's somewhere, right? Like it's somewhere. It may be hiding from you, or maybe you have blinders on and you can't see it because it's wrapped up in something else, whether it be responsibility or your identity, or whatever it is. Because for me, um, sometimes I let fatherhood, right, that identity of fatherhood, like stop me from seeing time. Right. And what I
Mm,
mean by that is, and I'll explain it. So sometimes, like, I'm doing something for my kids, and so I can't do this other thing.
mm,
Right. Like, but there's still like the time, like, oh, I got to take my daughters, and this used to happen to me. I got to get my daughters to school, so I'm not gonna have time to work out in the morning. And I was like,
mm,
yeah, actually, if I just wake up, 20 minutes earlier, I actually do have enough time to get the workout in.
mm,
Instead of like, oh well, I'm just gonna get it in the afternoon, right? Because I had did that for a while. I'd done that for a while. I was gonna get my afternoon workout in before I go train clients. And it worked until it didn't. And then it
mm,
was like, then it became an
mm,
excuse. It's like, oh man, I got a client that wants to come in a little earlier. Can't wake up, I can't get my workout in the morning because I got to take the kids to school. Client's coming in earlier. I'm just gonna not work out. And then in my head, I reasoned it like it's just a season. It'll pass. And then it got to be like, oh, I missed this week's workouts, and
Mm-hmm.
next week I got 2 in, and then the following week I did good. I got 3, and then the next week I didn't get any, and I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like I personally can't live like this. I have to change something.
Yeah, dude, it requires a tremendous amount of intentionality. But the cool
Mhm.
part is, and I'll have these conversations with a lot of guys because I got a lot of guys that like travel a lot for work and genuinely like they don't have time for an hour workout or
Right.
between, getting in there 10 to 15 minutes of like a warm up and like getting, depending on the time of day, like if it's first thing in the morning, like you can't roll into the gym and just start hitting like trap bar deadlifts. Like you got to get the nervous system engaged, the
Right.
joints loose. I mean, I don't know about you, but it takes me, a solid 10 or 15 minutes to
Hmm.
get kind of loosened up and warmed up and my mind right and ready to crush. And that's valuable time. My point in saying all of this is we have guys where I'll, build out a 3 or 4 day kind of dedicated, maybe it's a full body routine, but we'll split it up over
Yeah.
6 or 7 days.
Yeah.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. Again, it's just the mindset shift of giving ourselves permission to do things a little bit differently
Hmm.
than what we would have done in the past and what's deemed like best practices through social media or whatever influencer says, no, you have to do fasted, cardio, or it's 4 days a week training to optimize for lean muscle tissue, blah, 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 blah. Dude, what works best is what works for you and that you can be consistent with. And
Right.
so I'll tell you what, if I can take the appropriate amount of volume, whether you're getting it in 3 days or 7 days, it doesn't matter because week over week over week, if we're progressing appropriately, then you're going to get stronger. You're going to get leaner. You're going to put on lean muscle tissue, whatever that goal is that we're shooting for.
Hmm.
Again, if we build it in a way where you can be consistent. And so that's where it goes back to like, let's just frame things appropriately. Let's help you absolve yourself of the should. I should be doing this and I should be doing that, and zone out all of the BS that you're hearing and reading about or you think you should be doing,
Hmm.
right? And let's just figure out what you can realistically commit to, and we'll build from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Consistency is definitely the key, right? And that kind of like you talked about kind of breaking that up over each day is going back to that always something, right? Like it doesn't have to be all or nothing, right? It's we're getting something in consistently that makes sense, that works for you. I tell people that all the time with diets, like all of them work for the most part, right? Because all of
Yeah,
them put you in a caloric deficit of some way. Somehow they manage to
100%,
get
dude.
it done. But the one that really works is the one that works for you. Period. Like it just
Period.
there's not really one better than the other. They all are better or worse depending on your situation. And so you got to find the one that works for you, not for a short period of time, not for just like the, 4 to 6 weeks. Like, what is it that you can do consistently? Like, what is realistic? Like, intermittent fasting is phenomenal. I personally, just because of the way my life works, I can't do it consistently. My weekends, I struggle with it. It's just hard for me to do. Monday through Friday, I can crush it because my schedule is very like the same, right? But Saturday, Sunday, my schedule we could be at a tournament for 14 hours. Like I just my schedule is not the same. And so for me, it works, but it doesn't. So I'd rather do something that I can do more consistently, just and live my life comfortably without worrying about, oh man, it's my window. I can't eat anymore. Oh Jesus. Now
Dude.
my what is it, my 8:16 or whatever my window is now turned
Yeah.
into like a full-blown fast. Like I can't eat until tomorrow now. So
Oh man, amen. I could not possibly agree more. And the cool part is like you get to decide that for yourself. It's not,
yes.
it's not up to me, it's not up to us to tell you what to do. You have the opportunity to kind of figure out best practices for you, and that's incredibly liberating. It's
Hmm.
it's the whole, you teach a man to fish adage, right? And that I couldn't possibly want anything more for the guys listening, for the clients that we end up working with. is to give them that level of empowerment and autonomy. Like, dude, if
Mhm.
it works for you to intermittent fast, you go for it and you crush it. That's amazing. I'm with you, Rod. Not ideal for me. There might be a couple days a week where I inadvertently will, just because I've got a really busy day, really busy morning, in which case, cool. I ended up intermittent fasting. Wow, awesome. But, it's not, it doesn't have to be this dogmatic kind of zealotous approach of like, ooh, I, ate a processed food, or I ate before 10 a.m., or God forbid I eat, some of my kids' gummy bears. Like, big deal.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that's important to note. That you have to find what works for you. All right. With with the context of it is building your overall fitness, right? Because it definitely works for me to just, we didn't cook dinner. Didn't feel like cooking dinner. We go eat fast food. That works, right? But that doesn't work in the long term. It doesn't work towards building better fitness, right? And then when I say do what works for you, I mean do what works for you with the intention of taking care of your health, reclaiming your energy, becoming the leader that you want to be, being healthier,
Mm,
those things, right? Not
amen.
just taking the easy way out.
No, amen. 100%, 100%. It's with full conviction that you're making better decisions,
Hmm.
and you're just making the decisions that are right for you under the circumstances. And if it means, a few nights a week because of sports and extracurriculars, you guys ended up eating out, then it's how do I be intentional about making the best decisions possible? Like, we're going to go to wherever we're going to go to this place so that I can get like chicken and some vegetables versus Wendy's,
Right,
or
right.
if we do go to fast food, I'm going to order what's logically the healthiest or the lowest calorie, highest protein choice possible under the circumstances. Is it ideal? No. Is it the best decision I can make given the circumstances? Yes. And when you're equipped with the ability and knowledge to do that, that's a very powerful thing.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was in a similar situation yesterday. I had to pick my mom up from the airport, and I had just come from a work event, and so I had like just a little bit of time. Right next to the event was a Panda Express, and I was like, man, I'd never eat that place, but I don't have a choice, right? I got to make it to the airport in time, and I'm starving. So I went in and I got the teriyaki chicken, which they list as 33 grams of protein. So I was like,
Uh,
winner, and mixed vegetables. Like, it's not ideal. It's not like I made the chicken. I know exactly what's in it. I didn't make the vegetables. I don't know exactly what they put in it.
yeah.
But looking at the little buffet of things, those are my best options, right? And so I went in and made the best possible choice with what I was presented with. Not the best choice in like overall, but the best of what I had. And that's what we're talking about. Is like
Mhm.
sometimes you're going to be put in a situation where it's not ideal. You're not going to be able to have a home cooked meal. You're not going to be able to get a full 2 hour workout in, or 1 hour workout in, or even a 45-minute workout in. But what is it that you can do intentionally with what you have available to you to push the needle forward in the direction that you want to go?
Well said.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
So we obviously we talked about fitness, we talked about fatherhood. But I had a question for you. If I don't. If you had one thing that you wanted to share with guys, whether it be fitness or fatherhood or both, that if they're listening to this podcast and they made it to this point, or if they didn't hear anything else, right, and they're
Mhm.
just tuning in right now, like they had it on while they're at the gym, so you listen to a podcast at the gym, you just hear like you hear a
Mhm.
few words here or
Mhm.
there, right? But for whatever reason, they're locked into this moment right here. What is it that you want them to hear?
One of the things that I have been rooting into for myself, for what it's worth, um, is really figuring out. It's really just kind of being okay, figuring out who you are and being okay with like your respective goals. And so what I mean by that is like, what's my level of commitment to fatherhood, my level of presence with my kid, the way that I interact with my children, how I find fulfillment in the time that we spend together. What do I resonate with and who do I want to be in the gym and with my level of fitness and with my physique? What makes me feel good around my nutrition? the way that works with my schedule, my priorities within my business and the type of business that I want to run, and my relationship with my wife, the way in which we communicate. And that's going to be different than any other guy. But it's not hard to get distracted by, like I talked about, is all the things that we think we should be doing as a man, as a husband, as a father, as a leader, as a business owner. And it's not hard. And I'm just as guilty of this as the next guy, perhaps more so, of feeling like I'm not living into what I should be doing based on unrealistic expectations. And I would give guys permission to just put the kibosh on that, because it is absolute nonsense. I think that, we are all showing up as best as we can. We're doing the best that we can under the circumstances, which is not easy. And as long as we're making concerted efforts to get better, to improve ourselves, to lead by example, to show up with that level of energy and confidence and magnetism and self-belief, and be a better husband, father, leader, like, you can't go wrong, because you're going to grow. You're going to put yourself in challenging situations, which is going to help, reinforce and build new skills and behaviors and kind of ways of thinking about things. And so for me, that's kind of more of really what I would say to myself under, based on the question, is just like, dude, you're doing a good job. I know that you're doing your best. Keep trying to get better, and stop giving yourself such a hard time over things that you aren't doing, that you should be doing, that probably are unrealistic for you to do anyways.
I think that's great, man. I think that's great advice for anybody, right? At any stage of life, health, fitness, fatherhood, leadership, is to kind of always reflect back on that, right? Is you are doing, if hopefully, right, you're doing everything that you're wanting to do or trying to do, with the intention of being better. Give yourself some grace, right? There's going to be times and obstacles, and you're not going to always be perfect. You're going to slip up here and there, but the intention and the effort and the intensity at which you attack life is there, then you're okay, right? You're doing the right thing.
That's it, man. I mean, no one's going to be harder on ourselves than we are.
Right.
And I don't think it's, I think we need to we need to challenge ourselves, and there's always things that we can improve upon. But as long as we're aware that we are, putting in the effort, and we are prioritizing things appropriately, or at least taking the steps to consistently improve, then that's the best that we can do.
I love it. I love it. Hey, I really appreciate you taking the time to come and share with us, to talk about something that's so important to all of us. Even for you and I, who are obviously, this is in our wheelhouse, but this is something that I always reference, as Simon Sinek, is the infinite game, right?
Mm.
It's like, this doesn't end until life is over, right? We're always focused on fitness. We're always focused on fatherhood. Like, we're a father forever. Our fitness matters forever. And it's something that we're always working towards or on. So I thank you for coming and kind of sharing your perspective on something that's so important, sharing your ideas, your training program, your system, with our guys. If guys are wanting to reach out to you, if they're wanting to connect and learn more, or they just want to say, thank you for joining us on the podcast, give you a virtual high five or something like that, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I would love a virtual high five and love to connect and have conversation. You can hit us up on Instagram at Body Systems Coaching. I am actively involved and respond to every message in my DMs, so don't feel weird reaching out. I'd love to have those conversations. You're welcome to email me, ben@bodysystems.com, and I'm sure you'll have our information, Rod, down below in the show notes. And then if anyone's interested in kind of learning more about, or at least listening to our podcast, we have a podcast called The Smart Nutrition Made Simple Show. And that's on all podcast platforms, The Smart Nutrition Made Simple Show. So yeah, would love to hear from you, and grateful to all the guys and gals that listened in, and grateful to you, Rod, for taking the time and letting me share my journey with you guys.
Yeah, definitely appreciate it. I'm not just saying that for the podcast. I really appreciate anytime anyone comes onto the episode or comes onto the podcast and shares. I understand how important time is, and taking an hour out of your day, as we talked about, right, throughout this episode, how important time is. Taking an hour out of your day isn't easy. But I appreciate you extending yourself and sharing with other fathers, with other men, with other leaders, in an effort to help make them better, and ultimately make our world better. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
All right. Big thank you to Ben Brown for joining us and sharing so much wisdom. Fathers, remember, your health is the foundation of your leadership. You can't pour into your family if your cup is empty. If today's episode hit home, share it with another dad who needs to hear it. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what's next. And if you're ready to start reclaiming your own edge, comment father on Instagram or head to forfeitfatherhood.com to get your free father's roadmap and join our community. Until next time, keep leading with faith, family, finance, and fitness.